White Crane Kung Fu. A traditional style of Chinese martial arts. The Siu Hok Kune Set. The fast set done at normal speed from one angle to show changes of direction. Siu Hok Kune means small crane set and demonstrates techniques of the style in one continuous flowing sequence of movements. It's one of the first sets learned by beginners. Even so, it isn't easy, as it contains slow and fast movements, power, balance, and accuracy. A set is practiced over and over again so that alert students can find out more every time they perform it, like reading a book with many meanings. It can be done for training in the style or simply for keeping fit. So that beginners can study the set and imitate the movements, it is shown at very slow speed. Notice how Bob Stannells changes his stance or leg positions in a definite way. We shall examine this in more detail later, but for the moment, see how the hips coordinate with the legs to produce different stances in which the various hand techniques are performed. The cross-legged or scissors stance, kuma. The one-legged crane stance. The cat stance, Duma. The horse riding stance, Jutma, for strength and stability, with the weight evenly distributed on both legs. In this set, it is used to perform deep breathing exercises. As the hands rise into the crane's beak, the student inhales and as the hands descend and open, he exhales, smoothly and continuously. The turning stance, which isn't a true stance, but resembles a high turning cat stance. The bow stance, with the weight mainly on the front leg, giving reach and distance. Denji-ma. Students train at taking these stances in the right way, one stance being studied at a time. But when they learn the Siu Hok Kune Set, they find out how to change stance so that they can deliver a series of attacking and defending movements without any pauses, as if engaged in continuous combat. Obviously, a good sense of balance is needed and strong legs, and training in the set brings these qualities to a new level. You will appreciate as you watch that the different stances make different techniques possible. The stance which is taken on one leg, for instance, the one-legged crane stance, allows students to move one leg out of the way of an incoming attack and at the same time deliver a kicking counterattack. So every stance has its uses. The hands and arms combine or harmonize with the leg and hip movements to produce offensive and defensive tactics. The characteristic hand formation of the style is the crane's beak, in which the finger and thumb ends peck at the opponent and also parry his attacks. The crane's fist uses the back of the wrist in a thrusting attack. The straight fist and the twisting fist form part of the white crane armory also, but are less distinctive as they also appear in other styles of kung fu. The upward fist is used to attack like an uppercut, but can also be used to parry. The overhead descending punch uses the second row of knuckles to strike. Throughout the Siu Hok Kune Set, the student is engaged in continuous and purposeful activity, learning to combine arms, body, and legs to the best possible effect. The fist, brought into the open palm, is a formal salute to signify the conclusion of the set. The set is shown twice at slow speed, so that the student has plenty of time to refer to its detail and relate it to the analysis of the techniques which will follow shortly. The tall, majestic mountains of Tibet, towering above the earth, were a fitting background for the birth of the white crane style. Though the bird's majestic and soaring flight perhaps belies its deadly fighting potential. It was during the Ming dynasty of China that a Tibetan monk one day observed an ape approaching a white crane's nest, intent on stealing the bird's eggs. The monk, whose name was Adato, fully expected the crane to flee in the face of the powerful thief and abandon its young. On the contrary, the bird stood its ground, flapping its powerful wings, pecking down with its beak, and striking with its long, slender, but sinewy legs. The ape fought back, using its own characteristic fighting methods, but it was no match for the bird and was driven away time and again until at last it fled from the scene. Adato was enthralled by what he saw. The long struggle and its decisive ending with the white crane triumphant impressed itself on his mind and inspired him to invent a new fighting style. He called it the lion's roar, as a tribute to the courage of the bird. Adato, in fact, combined the movements of the crane, large and flowing, with the low, powerful steps and strong arms of the ape, giving the style a balance which it has retained to this day. White crane kung fu, as it came to be called in China, is still one of the foremost fighting arts, and until recently, the most secret. Siu Stannells is one of the leading European exponents, as this film clearly demonstrates. Now we examine some of the applications and techniques from the Siu Hok Kune Set. Here we see the formation of the crane's beak, beginning with the open hand. The tips of the fingers and thumb are brought together the muscles of the wrist contracted together with the muscles of the forearm, and the arm is brought back strongly into a bent position. It's important to make all fist formations correctly, to avoid damage to the hands and to be able to deliver a technique in the right way. When the technique is applied, it is done so freely and suddenly, with relaxed force, ending with a powerful contraction. When the crane's fist is used, the impact is taken by the back of the wrist, not the fingers and thumb. As the blow arrives, the wrist and forearm are again tensed for a split second, for effect and protection of the attacker. Techniques of white crane must be delivered accurately and with a continuous unbroken flow until the opponent is defeated. For the formation of the straight and twisting fist, the thumb must be placed outside the fingers. Careless beginners sometimes place the thumb inside the fingers and are in danger of injuring the thumb joint. Watch carefully to see the correct method. Here is the straight crane's fist attack with one hand and the twisting fist with the other. Different areas of the body are used as targets in the same sequence to make it difficult for an opponent to defend himself. This also gives the attacker training in focusing on various targets and at the same time raising and lowering his stance in relationship to those targets. He must be able to swiftly stand high and crouch low, coordinating the changes. Here we see the use of the crane's beak in a parrying movement. Defense is just as important as attack. The man on the left holds out his arms as if he were attacking, and the man on the right parries his arms with circular downward and outward actions. A white crane stylist never meets force with direct force, but always tries to turn it aside. In training, the speed of the circular parry is increased until finally the defender counterattacks using the back of the wrist in a crane's fist. The crane's beak forms a kind of hook, which as it were wraps around the attacker's wrist. In reality, very few parries would be made before the defender in his turn counterattacked. We move on from the hand techniques to the kicking techniques. Once again, more than one target is used. Here we see a round high kick to the head, a round middle kick to the chest region, and a round low kick to the legs. As the legs are more difficult to control for most people than the hands, A great deal of care and accuracy is needed in practicing with a partner to avoid injury. Before each technique is delivered, the attacker moves back into a single wing cat stance, one hand raised in the crane's beak and the other lowered into an open palm. The same series of kicks, this time at medium training speed. A second kicking technique, and as before, it needs control and accuracy. This is a side thrusting kick, attacking 3 targets: the solar plexus, the groin, and the knee. White Crane Kung Fu advocates accuracy, not simply battering away at an opponent anywhere and everywhere. The sole or edge of the foot is used as the striking surface. And the hips are twisted sharply to the left or right, as the case may be. Once again at medium training speed. A good sense of balance is clearly needed for this side thrusting kick. The third kicking technique is a front kick, beginning with the single wing cat stance. The care, accuracy, and focus gradually give students an improved sense of distance as they aim first at the face and then the groin. Notice that in this technique, both hands are raised into double crane's beak, and the reason for this will be shown later. When a white crane stylist faces his opponent, the arms are spread wide apart, presenting what seems to be an open target, an unprotected body. This is nothing but a trick to lure the attacker in, and then the legs deliver a kick or the arms come swooping down to catch and counterattack. This is one of the tactics of the style. Next, we show the one-legged crane stance, used as a defense against a kick. As the attacker on the right kicks at the opponent's body, his kick is blocked by the rising leg of the defender. The defender then springs up from his supporting leg and uses a high crescent kick to counterattack to the head. We return to the front kick and the use of the double crane's beak. See how the arms and hands are raised into position in time with the delivery of the kick. The attacker brings up both arms very strongly, diagonally, outwards and forwards. This technique demands considerable strength and fitness and symbolizes the raising of the crane's wings. Here we see demonstrated one of the uses of the double crane's beak. As the man on the right moves forward to grab his opponent, his arms are diverted, separated by the wing-like arms of the defender, leaving the attacker's body completely open to the front kick. As the front kick is traveling in a straight line, it is the most appropriate counterattack in this situation. The spinning hooking kick is used as a surprise attack. The action of moving through a complete circle also adds to the force of the kick. Here the two targets are the head and the back of the knee. The low hooking kick can also be used to sweep an opponent's legs from under him. It is more obvious than ever in this example of kicking that the attacker needs to be in full control of his legs, so that he can either pull the kick or alternatively narrowly miss the target. The single wing cat stance, which is shown repeatedly before and after each technique, emphasizes to the beginner the importance of the stance as a basic requirement of the style. Its role will become clearer as his experience of the style increases. Stance changing exercise for a strong, steady posture. This section shows the stances used in the Siu Hok Kune Set, separately from the hand techniques and the kicks. At one time, students of Kung Fu were trained to stand still in each stance for long periods, perhaps for as much as an hour, so that they understood well how a stance was taken and held, and so that they could use the correct muscles. In this particular exercise, the stances are joined together like a short training set. The exercise can be used as a basis for devising your own sequence of stance changing. The use of stances runs through the whole of classical Chinese Kung Fu, and the closest Western parallel is the stances of European fencing, which contrast markedly with the free and open leg positions of Western boxing. The idea of fighting from a stance can be compared with an army fighting from a fixed, advantageous position, and contrasts with the hit-and-run tactics of guerrilla fighting. Since the time of Bruce Lee, some martial artists have given up the use of specific stances in favor of a more freestyle use of the feet. From the ready position, Siu Stannells moves into the horse-riding stance, then the bow stance, cat stance, bow stance, scissors stance, scissors stance again, center to bow stance, cat stance, bow stance, center stance 4 times, scissors stance, horse stance, and ready position. Exercise for combining the single wing open cat stance, arms and legs. This movement appears in the Siu Hok Kune Set, and by using this exercise, students can concentrate on improving the one posture on the right side and the left side. Notice the transition from one side to the other, how the hands cross with both palms open before the rising hand takes on the crane's beak and the descending hand forms an open palm. Training in the one-legged crane stance with single wing arm positions. This exercise improves the sense of balance needed to carry out the Siu Hok Kune Set. The arms move strongly, and students must be able to maintain balance during this action, and at the same time raise one knee as high as possible in front of the chest. The raised leg protects the trunk and groin and can also be a method of avoiding a kick or sweep to the leg. Twisting fist, catching and deflecting exercise. From the horse riding stance, the open palm moves directly forward to catch or deflect an incoming attack, pulling the attacking arm to one side while the rear hand twists forward with a counter punch. An upward swinging punch and block in one movement. Notice the combined use of the hips and shoulders. A descending attack using the second row of knuckles of the clenched fist. Twisting hook punch, snapping back the elbow with each blow. The same sequence is repeated at slow speed so that students can follow it again. The same sequence at normal training speed. When students know the Siu Hok Kune Set and can perform it well, they are introduced to the two-man fighting set. This set can be compared to a kind of dance in which each partner knows his own sequence in relationship to the other. It gives an opportunity to simulate real combat in a safe way and at the same time train at the techniques which have previously been done alone. It improves timing, sense of distance, accuracy and fighting spirit. Agility and fitness are clearly necessary in this set also. It contains the principle of continuous attack referred to earlier and uses the strong stances of the ape and the high-flying techniques of the crane. Many people have criticized the study of martial arts and the study of Kung Fu as being an encouragement to violence. This is far from being true. More, it emphasizes the control of the body, fitness, the ability to stick with the subject and see it through to the end, the capacity to take hard knocks as well as give them, and also find out something of the culture of a country different from one's own. Because in general, students of White Crane Kung Fu not only study the physical aspects of their art, but also something about the country which it came from. This is a far cry from an art which encourages hooligans to become better hooligans than they are already. We hope that you have enjoyed this video, and we look forward to bringing more to your screens.